Welcome to another episode of Unscripted. Today's time that I get to spend with you today with Proverbs 13 is the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. The reason why I wanted to go through these things is because it's 3,000-year-old wisdom that is so applicable today in your leadership, your culture, and your systems. As I was studying through this one, there are so many points, there are so many bombs, and we aren't even going to cover it all. But we have quite a bit today to be able to share with you. I am very, very excited and honored. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unscripted, Proverbs 13. Let's go.
Cause we believin', it's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Unscripted, episode 327. Here we go. Proverbs 13, we're going to deal with diligence, righteousness, wisdom, prudence, trustworthiness, integrity. Here's the theme of what Proverbs 13 is, or at least it is to me in my translation. Listen to wisdom, speak life, seek righteousness, and do the right thing. And you'll see through the verses that we go through today, which is going to be rapid fire, tons and tons and tons of actionable things that we're going to talk about. And you can relate them to your leadership, your culture, and your systems. Let me say the words again. Diligence, which is right work. Righteousness, doing the right thing. Wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge. Prudence, which is understanding and knowing what the right thing is at the right time and staying patient. Trustworthiness, integrity, being the same in the dark as you are in the light. And imagine if we just took those and we applied them. And here we go. We're going to be talking about listening to wisdom, speaking life, seeking righteousness, and doing the right thing. I want to give a couple shout outs. Mr. John, I want to thank you so much for reaching out yesterday. You asked me about how I can stay in the peace. And what I was saying to him was that it was an active pursuit. It was an active thing in staying present with exactly what God had for you and not trying to get to him through rituals, but more in a relationship and being present in that. So let's jump right into point number 1, the power of words. Think of this. You hear this all the time. Speak things into existence. Wisdom tells you what to do and what to listen to. Or sometimes who to listen to. This goes right to verse 1 through 3. So I want to read this to you. A wise son heeds his father's instructions, but a mocker does not respond to rebukes. From the fruit of their lips, people enjoy good things, but the unfaithful have an appetite for violence. Those who guard their lips preserve their lives, but those who speak rashly come to ruin. How quickly have we ever said something and we said the wrong thing and then we had to apologize for it? Imagine the power of words. That's point number 1. Let's go into point number 2, the rewards of righteousness. And this one was amazing because we started using this word righteousness, and David Hamilton asked me, what is the definition or the difference between righteousness and unrighteousness? And my answer was simply, if you listen to God, because it's not always the right thing to do, but you have to have the right timing and it has to be for the right person. And the only way that we can know that is to be present and have a relationship with the one that built you in the first place. So here we go. Again, these are my opinions. This isn't me preaching to you. This is me studying and getting very excited about it. And you could tell, like last night when I was studying on this and this morning at the beach when I was studying, I'm so excited about this and to be able to share it because I'm learning so much in it. Verse 5 and verse 6, the righteous hate what is false, but the wicked make themselves a stench and bring shame on themselves. Righteousness guards a person of integrity, but the wickedness overthrows the sinner. Do the right thing. And think of the rewards of righteousness when you're thinking of that. Let's go into point number 3 is stay humble. This one was a hard one because anytime that things start to succeed, we have the tendency to think that because we did it before, we can do it even bigger and better. But when we stay humble, it's amazing. So in verse 7, it says, one person pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, but has great wealth. Stay humble. We hit this point yesterday, which was big hat and no cattle. Imagine this. One person pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. Say less, do more, stay humble. Point number 4, beware of trusting in your riches. And this was a big one for me because I wrote down oil and water. My pops would always say this. Oil and water will never mix. You could shake them up. You could take the world and you could take your spirit, but they'll never mix. The desires are always going to be contradictory. You could shake them up and it looks like that they will combine, but then they settle and they'll always separate. So beware of trusting in your riches. And it doesn't mean that money is bad. It just means that when that is the particular focus, what'll happen is those riches will sprout wings and fly away. So in verse 8, it talks about a person's riches may ransom their life, but the poor cannot respond to threatening rebukes. And this was a one that hit me hard because a person's riches may ransom their life. A lot of times, and this is where I fell into it, is when I started to focus on the money aspect of it, then what I noticed is that sometimes that held me hostage. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do that. And then when it says the poor cannot respond to the threatening rebukes, I mean, a lot of times, because if you're at a point where no one could take anything from you, it's amazing. It's not a call out to be poor. It's not a call out to be not wealthy. Be smart with your money, and that's where it's going to go to in the next point, which is point number 5, sustainable wealth. This is amazing because in verse 11, it says, dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little will make it grow. Does that sound like Dave Ramsey? Absolutely. So in this one here, think of this, sustainable wealth. Let me read it again. Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little, it will grow. I wrote down a couple of examples on this. Epstein, Diddy, Sam Fried with FTX, right? If you read the book Super Pumped about Uber, Travis Kalanick, guys, sustainable wealth as opposed to looking at dishonest money. Sometimes the things that we do can create a quick result, but the long-lasting sustainable wealth will be bit by bit by bit by bit. Glory, faith to faith, glory to glory. That's the way that God will build us. Point number 6 is protect hope. This is a massive one. Protect hope at all points. And it is in verse 12 and verse 19. Let's go to verse 12. So in verse 12, it says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And I wrote this down because we're watching Suits. My wife and I are. And I wrote this down, Suits. If you look at it, protecting hope was massive, and it's almost the basis of the whole entire show. Alex dealt with this, Sam on there, Lewis, Harvey, Donna, Katrina, Mike. If you watch Suits, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They all started to lose hope because their name wasn't going on the wall, or they didn't get the promotion or anything like that. When hope is deferred, it'll make the heart sick. So make sure that you protect that hope at all costs. Point number 7, seek wisdom. Seek wisdom. What is wisdom? It's the right use of knowledge. Where do we get wisdom? From the fear of God. That's what we've been studying. So in this, verse 14, it says, the teaching of the wise is a fountain of life, turning a person from the sources of death. And so in point number 7, seek wisdom, in verse 14, when it says, the teachings of the wise is a fountain of life. Think of a fountain. It constantly is moving. And when I read this, it said, I wrote down, it must be daily. You must seek wisdom daily. And it will always be fresh. A relationship versus religion is the difference between me doing the exact same things over and over again and I need this result, as opposed to being present in that relationship. And I tell you, when you focus on relationship as opposed to rituals, it's amazing what can happen because you can be available. And that wisdom is not a pond, it is a fountain. A pond will get stale and stagnant, whereas a fountain will always be fresh. And that's what God wants us to be able to have with the wisdom. Point number 8, speak life. And this is verse number 17. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a trustworthy envoy brings healing. And imagine this, speaking life, speaking life, speaking life. And when we speak life into people, it's amazing what can happen, but it has to be specific. You have to use their name. And the more specific, the more power that speaking life will have. Point number 9 is the sum of the 5 people closest to you. Watch this in verse 20. Does that sound very familiar? We've heard it in books. We hear it all the time on social media. The sum of the 5 people that are around you is what your success will be. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Well, guess where that comes from? 3,000-year-old wisdom that is still applicable today. So in verse 20, it says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. It says it right there. Let's go to the source. The sum of the 5 people, and then show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Imagine what can happen when we lock into the foundation. And right here in Proverbs 13, verse 20, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. How many times have we just been caught up because of the association and people that we've been around? Point number 10, as we finish, discipline won't kill you. This was something that my pops wanted to quote all the time. I did not like this verse. I was mad at this verse. And actually, there's 2 verses. So it's verse 24 and 18. So I'm going to let you know on verse 24, whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline. My dad quoted this all the time, and he was like, spare the rod, spoil the child. I didn't want to hear this stuff at all from my pops. But when I look at these things, guys, a lot of times we as humans, we push away discipline, and then we're mad at the consequences of what happened from that lack of discipline. I, again, don't like this verse. I'm mad at it, and I've been mad at my pops ever since. And in verse 18, whoever disregards discipline comes to poverty and shame, but whoever heeds correction is honored. Bang, bang, biggity bang. Pops, you were right. I was wrong, but I still don't like the verse. The crazy thing about this is in verse 18, what I wrote down is that in verse 18, let me read it again. Whoever disregards discipline comes to poverty and shame, but whoever heeds correction will be honored. Guys, and what I wrote down is it's a brand builder. You want to build your brand, read verse 18, Proverbs 13, verse 18, over and over and over again. It will build your brand on a solid foundation. And when we build it on a solid foundation, guess what happens? We do the right things for the right reasons, and the right things tend to work out, but it's never in our timing. It's God's will, it's God's plan, but it's His timing. That's the challenge for us. Be patient, build your brand. As we finish up today, I do have a question. I did have a question in this one. The question today for me was verse 23, and this says, an unplowed field produces food for the poor, but injustice sweeps it away. If you're out there, if you're a Bible scholar, which I'm not, I've just read the book, I study it, I've been studying it for the last 30 years, but help me with this verse. This was the question that I had. I have a question mark next to it, and I wanted to question God, like, what does that actually mean? So if you do know, comment, that would be awesome. As we finish up, guys, we go back to where we started. Diligence, righteousness, wisdom, prudence, trustworthiness, integrity. And here's the focal point of today. Listen to wisdom, speak life, seek righteousness, and then finally, do the right thing. I believe the right thing is to subscribe to the podcast. I love every single one of you. Make sure that you throw a comment in. I will respond to the comments. I love you guys. Thank you so much for rocking with the podcast. This 3,000-year-old wisdom from Proverbs 13 and the corresponding proverb, corresponding day, it's amazing how applicable it is to our leadership, our culture, and our systems. Thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate you. And like I've said in the past, I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and salt.